ally and an important ally in the Persian Gulf region to the United States and its allies.
Let's talk about what's happening in Iran right now.
As you mentioned, Mir Hossein Mousavi and Karroubi on February the 5th called for public protests officially in support of the popular movements in Egypt and in Tunisia. And after that, there were a series of events that took place. There were about 30 individuals who were part of opposition groups in Iran who were arrested, including bloggers and journalists. The government essentially said we are not going to issue a permit for these demonstrations, which were planned on Monday, the same day that the Bahrain demonstrations were planned. And the opposition said, you know, according to Article 27 of the Iranian Constitution, we are actually allowed to go and protest, and we don't necessarily need a permit for that. The Iranian Constitution grants us the right to assemble freely, as long as we do it peacefully. And the people of Iran, many of the people of Iran, heeded the call of Karroubi and of Mousavi, and actually went out into the streets. And it was the largest public display and public protests in Iran since the huge crackdowns after the June 2009 elections, to the point where a lot of analysts are now saying that it shows that the Green Movement is actually still alive in Iran.
Faraz, talk about what happened in the parliament, the calling for the execution of the two opposition leaders, Karroubi and Mousavi,
yes,
by the parliamentarians.
Yes. Yesterday, there were parliamentarians who actually interrupted a speech by Larijani, who is the Speaker of the Parliament in Iran, and chanted slogans calling for the execution of Karroubi and Mousavi, who are the two leaders who are most associated with the Green Movement. There are other individuals like Mohammad Khatami, who is the former president of Iran. He also has been attacked quite a bit. But I will say that this is not necessarily something new. Since the June 2009 protests, we have seen a lot of harassment and pressure against Karroubi, Mir Hossein Mousavi. They have essentially been under house arrest at different times. Their movements have been monitored. And in fact, the Basij and conservative forces in Iran have continuously called for their prosecution, and some have called for their execution. Now we see the voices are a lot louder, as you mentioned, in parliament, and there is this wave of individuals now really publicly calling for them to be prosecuted and put on trial.
Mousavi under house of arrest?
Mousavi, as far as we know, I don't have the latest information, but during the day of the protest on Monday, both Karroubi and Mousavi were essentially under house arrest. Security forces did not allow them to leave their homes and join the protesters.
An increased attack on lawyers as well?
Yeah, I mean, this is something that doesn't necessarily correlate with the protests. The increasing attack on lawyers is something that has been going on for several years now. But in 2010, we saw an increase in the prosecution of lawyers for what we believe to essentially be them talking about the cases of their clients.